So, well, yeah, I think so. You get to C10.
We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Thank you.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Westergaard.
Yes.
Woltman.
Yep.
Reese.
Here.
And Councilor Moeller.
Okay, public forum. Judy, would you like to
Yes,
visit with the council?
I'd like to speak about a concern I have. The December 31st issue of the Des Moines Register had a very lengthy, multi-page article on an aging childless Iowa. And I was shocked to see on one of their charts that talked about the cities in Iowa over 500 population that had the highest elderly population. Lakeview was ranked 3rd in the state. Our elderly over 65 population is 32.8%. They also had a chart showing young people. We were 11th on that chart with 15.2%. That was young people under 18. I think that's a concern for us. It's a concern for our community. It's a concern for our schools. Now I know that we have extenuating circumstances, and that is the lake, which is a wonderful draw. It's a wonderful amenity, but the lake brings people, retirement people, and we can be very thankful for them because some of them have taken real leadership roles and have been a real benefit to our community. We're thankful for them. And of course that raises our elderly number. And we also have a problem because of the lake. We have higher housing costs here in Lakeview than around. A couple weeks ago, the Des Moines Register had another lengthy article, I think about 5 pages, about the crisis in Iowa with housing, affordable housing for young families. And I think that's a real problem here in Lakeview. I think it's safe to say that we have a shortage of affordable housing for young families. And I was happy to see on your list of goals that was one of the ones you wanted to address. However, it was number 5. I don't know if you have them ranked in importance. I think it's a crucial thing and something we have to be looking at right now. I remember distinctly that when some of you originally ran for office, that was your platform, that you wanted to see new housing in Lakeview and you wanted to see new industry, new growth as far as the business area. And I just want to give you an example. We moved here in 1970, a long time ago. We looked at some houses. There wasn't much available. We couldn't find anything. A year later, the congregation built the new parsonage at the end of what was then the end of Madison Street. We moved in there. When we moved into that house in 1971, First Avenue was a dirt road, a gravel road. But shortly after that, the city paved that. And shortly after that, Verno Hansen built a spec house, the one that the Lane family lives in now. And the 3 houses right across from the parsonage went in. I think the lumberyard built those spec houses. I can think of at least 12 families that have lived in those homes in those years. All that was south of that was the OCCC camp buildings and the Griffin Apartments on the highway. I think that shows that if we go ahead and we put an area in, we can have some growth. The legislature has provided a plan to help with that, and that of course is the TIF funds, as you're aware. They've made those TIF funds available throughout the state to grow industry, bring new industry in, and grow housing. And the purpose, you're going to increase your population of all these little towns, dying towns across the state, rural Iowa, and you also are going to, you're going to provide kids for these schools that don't have enough schools, and most importantly, for as far as the city is concerned, it's going to raise our tax base. So I would really like to encourage you to use these TIF funds the way they were intended, to draw industry here, to provide help with businesses that want to expand, and to do something about housing, initiative for housing so that young families can afford to move here. This would not only increase our population, benefit our school, but it would increase our tax base, benefit all of us. So I just want to encourage you to use those funds that way.
Thank you, Judy. We have talked about it, and we're gonna continue to work on it.
I would want to comment on that a little bit, because I have been kind of working on this, trying to pull something together. But I was out and visited with the new manager at Evapco a couple days ago. And he told me that they're not hiring from out of the area right now for positions they need because there's no housing here. He said it is a huge issue for us and it's a huge problem for us. And he said, and if we do find housing, it's 3 or 4 bedroom homes, you know. He said we need affordable housing for these employees that we need to hire. So just throwing that out there, that was what I got from a visit with the Evapco manager, the new manager the other day, so.
And if I'll just add that, when I talk to people in the community about this, they say, oh, don't do anything, I wanna sell my house. You know, well, I'm an older person like that too, I'm not gonna be in that house that many more years, and my house is gonna be for sale. But we can't look at it that way, it's gonna harm our whole community if we aren't willing to have some new housing and bring these people in. A lot of the houses that are available are not going to appeal to young people. The ones around the lake are nice, but they can't afford them. We just need some modern housing that families would like to move into. I think it would be really interesting to know how many of the Evapco employees, what percentage of them actually live inside our city limits. I don't think it's probably a very high percentage, because we don't have housing.
Well, it is a problem for them, I'll tell you that.
Judy, we have put away $300,000 in TIF funds for this project, so we just haven't got that far yet.
I know, I just wanted to bring my opinion.
Glad you did,
Yeah, appreciate
glad you
your
did,
efforts.
it's very welcome.
I'd be curious to know what affordable housing is because to me, you know, is it like a house that's 150,000 or what would be considered affordable housing around here, I guess?
I don't know. I think
just because I don't know.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, a lot of the housing is very expensive, of course, as I said, because of the lake. I know when my daughter moved here, a house that she probably could have bought for, you know, 80 or 90,000 in another community was 130 here. So maybe we just need more housing, so it kind of brings that all down. And I think another issue, a lot of the houses, even when like a ranch style goes on the market, they're gone, usually right away, and sometimes they don't even get listed, they're gone. I think we don't have houses, you know, that are family friendly, like there's a little yard and there's like a 2-car garage and, you know, I'm not talking mansions, I'm talking modest homes. And I don't know what price number,
I think
but,
something maybe even below 100,000 is something we don't have.
yeah.
I don't know that, but I'm just.
Yeah, and then how do we get that? Because, you know,
I'm sure it's not easy, I just think it's something we really need to work on.
I agree.
What building, like, you know, we talked about this before, building some type of senior housing, you know, there's a lot of elderly people that are looking for senior housing, and again, we've been down that road. If
I
they
think
moved
there's-
to senior housing, then that would free up, you know, other housing, but, you know.
My personal opinion is that there's a need for both. There's a need for more duplexes that older people can move into. But some of these homes that older people are in, young families aren't really gonna wanna go into.
Right.
I think there's a need for both areas of improvement.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
Again, Judy, I want to thank you for coming in. Hardly anybody ever does that. We just hear it on town, so I applaud your
Whatever
efforts.
we don't hear.
Okay. John, did you have something?
Yeah. This will be very brief. I also have been alarmed by some of the demographics I've heard just since New Year's. I've got a gift for the children of this town. I was a very fortunate boy. And that article in the Register, I'm a good newspaper, that got by me. But I've heard different things, and the kicker was, Wilma Crudoff said a few weeks ago that the school is a soup kitchen for kids on weekends and holidays. I've got a list of, I did not consult my attorney, there are no strings attached to this, there's no contingencies whatsoever. You don't have to disclose my name, I need no recognition. I don't even think I need the A1C3, I would show that to my accountant, but, I don't have any income per se. I'm appointing you Team Santa Claus. I've got 17 things on here. I'm a reclusive bachelor. You've got your finger on the pulse of things in this community, the families. Some of these things are obvious. At the top of the list, I've got the food bank and city utility bills. If you and Kay know 3 or 4 families that are always late in paying, or a single mom who's got 2 jobs, give them amnesty, give them a reprieve for the next year. I've got obvious things like playground, summer concert, splash pad. If the water carnival's going down and you want to emphasize summer concert, that's fine. The LARS projects, 17 things. Your minds together might come up with things I don't have. One-time scholarships, field trips, band trips, things related to the school. There was a sign in the post office last week. There's a boy with a Chiari malformation, and that's Iowa City. And there's gonna be a benefit from it. I don't know the family, I don't know the name. I trust you inherently, Scott. That's it, unless there's questions.
No, that's great.
Thanks for pointing that out, John.
Yeah.
You don't sit alphabetically.
No. First come, first served. So is this things that you think we could do? Or that the community is doing more
And
of?
no, any of those things you apply that to
I
is
see.
fine with me.
I see.
And if it only goes to things like city utility bills,
No.
that's pretty bad if, we got a soup kitchen in the school. This is the least I can do. I've done very little charity the last 4 years. It doesn't hurt a grumpy bachelor one iota.
I didn't know we had any of those.
Oh, I'm a grumpy bachelor. I'm going home.
Thank you, sir.
I
See
thank you,
ya.
John, very much.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
Okay, the consent agenda, any additions, corrections? If not, need a motion to approve.
So,
We'll go.
I need a second.
Oh,
I'll second it.
Kip, Boltman,
yes.
Stanky,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Reese, Moller.
Okay, item 5 is our agreement with the local union.
This would just be the formal approval of the tentative agreement that's on page 3, 4, 5 of the council packet. And then all of those, that verbiage has been incorporated into the contract, which is on your seat tonight. So I think it is ready for approval.
Need that motion?
So,
Roll call.
Prior to the vote, on the last page, it has the term ends on July 2021, is that the right thing? I just not grabbed this.
It is, this is written to be a 3-year deal. Okay, so it's 3 years, but it has that language in there about if health insurance in the first 2 years increases more than 15%, then wages and health insurance open for the 3rd year.
that's.
I just did the math in my head, so the fiscal year is 3 years, but if it was 18 to 21, so that caught my eye.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's 19, 20, and 21 are the years.
Okay.
Okay, roll call.
Okay, Waltman,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Moller,
Motion's approved. Okay, we're gonna, legacy power line. Bill, do you have anything to add?
Everything looks good, John.
Everything's good. We'll need a motion to approve the bid for 84,000.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Tammy, second.
Tammy, okay,
Roll call.
thank you.
Yes.
Moller, Waltman,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Motion passes. Bobby, Terrell, you're up, Mr. Terrell. If you'd like to inform the council what we talked about this afternoon.
Okay, and there, and I'm glad that you're here. And if you need some copies of stuff, I'll give them to you on there. I'm thinking about Biotest over here on the east side. They are smaller units. Each unit is 37.5 foot on there. They will have basements on there. If you can give her a copy of that.
You could just,
I got to watch out.
there you go.
There.
I got it in my book.
Okay, now, that is just a plan that I actually went to another builder. I used to build. I had a stroke, and now I just developed on there. They are interested in that on there. Now, they're 2 bedrooms up, and I believe later on you could probably look at that on there. They are 2 bedrooms up. The kitchen's up. There is a bath up and a half bath up, and downstairs there can be 2 bedrooms and a family room on there. They will have basements on there. For what I'm thinking, to get younger people in here, because the price is the problem on there. They can always finish off the basement later on there. Those will fit. The elderly, I think you are right, that they have a house here, but they don't want to move out of it because they got no place to move to. The elderly on there. These are ranches, plus if they want to finish off the basement, they can. And they all have 2-car garages on there. Cost, I do not know yet. But I actually went and talked to Classic, and there is that picture of that unit. And those are on 37.5 foot lots on there. I'm gonna be selling the lots on there. If somebody here wants to know somebody that wants to build like a duplex on it, they can. On it. If somebody wants to buy those 2 lots and build a house on it, they can on there. But it's got, especially next to the lake, it's got to be a ranch. Because basically the basement level, the basement part, which has daylight windows, has to be at least a foot above the road so they can have basements. Now, myself personally, I like to sell them all, those ranches, and then back behind can be 2 stories if somebody wants one. Any questions?
The lot size, what'd you say the lot size is?
Okay, for each unit, they are 37.5 plus 37.5 because there's that middle wall. There is still the 5, I call it 5 foot because it goes from the overhang. I go to the foundation, which if they have a 1 foot overhang on the sides.
So you're talking about the building, Bob, not the lot? 'Cause I thought the
I'm
lot was
thinking about-
43.
The lots are 43. So,
Well, on some of them, but if I'm not mistaken, on those ranches, I think they're 37.5 feet plus 37.5 feet plus 10. So we're speaking roughly 80 to 85.
yeah, they're 87.
Okay.
In total is what
Okay.
they're figuring.
Okay. all right.
Just for the council, as you take a look at that plat, and let's look at the one that was on the table tonight, because it's slightly different. Where you see that it's, where it says by attached in the middle of each of the lots. So the concept is that although there's 2 lots there, there's a duplex that's put on each one of each side of those 2 lots. So in total, the width of the lot for each of the duplex structures is about 87 feet. This shows the width of each one of the lots being 43.5 feet. We do have a minimum lot width in our code of 50 feet, and we need to work through that, either as an acknowledgement that these are duplexes, or through some other manner, work through that, or change the width, which I know Bobby's not very excited about.
Now, one thing that I do wanna stress, okay, let's say somebody comes in here and only wants to buy half of it. You know what I'm saying, that lot of
3.5.
yes. They've got to be 5 foot from foundation to foundation. It's because that's the way it is. Now, if somebody comes in and wants to buy one big lot, which is both lots, and build a house, they got no problem, except for when they get the abstract, that 2 lots will be 1, and they can never change it. That's one thing I want to stress on there. If they want to buy that half lot, they could, but when I give them an abstract, they can never change it at all.
But if they say this 43.5, and 43.5, they want to build more.
One house.
I know, but say build to one side and then put on another garage, would they be?
If they want to.
Right, okay.
Now, in the back, on the back of that, those lots are a little bit smaller. Now, okay, let's just say you and your neighbor want to build a bigger garage right in front of yours. Now, you can build one big garage to take both of them, but you still gotta have the 5 foot on the sides. The only thing they gotta do is separate that and put a firewall in. If they wanna do it that way.
On a single level like that, they do need a firewall?
In this, yes, they have to have a firewall.
Okay.
No ifs, no ands, no buts.
Yeah.
And there will also be smoke detectors in it and everything.
So, Bob, if you sell this to a developer,
To a building.
a builder, sorry, are you still gonna own the back side? Or all of that will be sold to the developer? No, just
I
as
am
much
the
as he wants to
developer.
build?
I'm talking just selling the lots.
Okay.
Right now, there is a metal Quonset hut up there. Okay? It might go away and it might not. I'm trying to talk my wife into building one up there. She wants to stay where we are. It's a big house. She uses that. Here, did you want this?
No, that's okay. Sorry, thank you.
She used it with 12 other women for a week out of the year, and they put sewing machines in there.
Judy, be careful out there.
Yeah.
On there. And I want to build a smaller house.
Bobby, that's our newspaper guy.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
I don't know.
Just for the council, that Quonset location is up here and outside of the plat. Okay, and not proposed to be included in the plat.
There is now, okay, in that property that I bought, it says 10 acres plus or minus. It's taken 2 years through attorneys and everything else. I actually own 4.69 acres. Where did the other acres go? On there. There was a problem with the road. We finally got that taken care of. I actually owned part of that road that I could literally tear up. that road has been there for as long as I can ever remember on there. So Sac County and my engineer got together and to keep the road there. And that's all signed off. Quote unquote, it was a mess. I didn't swear. Alright, so, but that's what I'm planning on. And, if there is TIF money available, I might be interested in that. Or Classic might be interested in it. Make them those size units, put the bathroom downstairs, so the people, whoever buys it, can later finish the basement if they need 3 or 4 bedrooms.
What is the timeline on annexation in your mind?
I'm gonna sign it. You gotta just do the paperwork. I think I signed it once, but Scott was telling me we gotta.
Oh, we gotta have a different, a true application, but it also includes a legal description, so Bobby's gotta get us a legal description of the property to be annexed, which is different than the property that was purchased. So, that's one of the next steps here is getting that legal description. And
I don't have a
Deferring to our
problem
city attorney
of
about
getting
the
that
process.
done. And the only thing that I will say, if you wanna see the abstract, it's attached to my hand. I won't let it go to nobody.
Well, I think you provided us with a look at it before, and I took.
Yeah, and I have no problem of letting you look at it.
I've got what I need, I think.
If that's, yes. But you need that new legal.
Yeah, that's true.
Once that's all taken care of, how soon are you looking to hopefully get started on it?
When
Yes,
when
right.
it's this, no, it'll take a while. I'm thinking within a month.
Okay.
I'd like to, I don't know. The guy that wants to put in the sewer and all that stuff, he wants to start on it immediately. I had a phone call from him this morning. And I goes, hey, I'm going to the city tonight. The engineer, I changed engineers. The reason I changed engineers, Snyder and Associates is so busy in Des Moines and in Ankeny, all around. I figured they'd say yes and do this because Mr. Snyder used to live here. He has passed away. They can do all the engineering, but they won't come up and inspect. A guy that I sold a lot to 35 years ago is an engineer. I went over to him. He goes, Bobby, it's only an hour and a half away. And I goes, I know, because they have to inspect this, especially with the lift station. And let me tell you what, they'll even inspect Bill's work on there to make sure everything is done. I don't think we'll have a problem with him, but it's got to be inspected. And that's why I went to them. No, you just do your job on there.
He will, I'm sure.
Hey,
So the next step is to get the legal description.
and if I go home tonight, I'm gonna call home and see if it's starting to ice up. It is supposed to ice up about a half an inch. And who knows?
Anyway, then at that point, we start the annexation process.
we can start the annexation process. I'm deferring to Dave on a lot of that, on those issues yet, about that contiguity, about how it is
Right.
connected to the city.
Yeah, because it was an 80-20. Well, Scott, am I right saying that if it was the total acreage, it would have been no problem? Now, there could be a problem.
So it's all gonna be based on the contingent.
And the way I feel, Sac County signed off for Lakeview to run sewer and water. Guess what? I own that sewer and water, some of it. Don't know which one it is on there. The wetland area, and if you wanna see that, I'll have them email you. It's 32 pages long. That ground is certified. I don't know if the other ground is certified. Mine is certified by civil engineer. Boom. They're the ones that shot the heights and everything else. Did I read all that garbage? I mean, you know, the government regulations? No, I did not.
So is the wetland part of the 4-point-something acres? Or is it in addition to?
That is, I believe, now don't quote me on this, I think it is,
Part of the 4-point-something?
yes.
Really?
Which that consists of, I think it's 0.85, almost 3/4 of an acre.
Okay.
So, from a process point of view, there are a couple things that'll be happening here. Gotta happen relatively quickly. An annexation is the first issue, and then you start to work on planning, which this concept then is the beginning of Bob's preliminary plat. And this tells us a little bit about what it is that he would propose to do and the width of the lots and that type of stuff, but it also has some stuff on there about utilities, which we want to run through here real quick. You want to talk about that maybe a little bit, Bob? Start with the streets and then talk through water and sewer and...
Okay, on there, there'll be, the city will do the water. The city will do the electricity. The city will put in the streetlights. Okay, I'll put the sewer in, I'll put the lift station in. Now, okay, but there's a $3,500 hookup fee to hook up the sewer.
It's
no, there
about $12.50, but...
Okay, but no. Since I'm putting it in, I'm paying for it, there ain't no hook-on fee. But each one will be stubbed to those lots and capped underneath the street on there. Okay, and there'll be a cap there, so when they dig basements, they know right where that's at. Okay, I know where I live, I think there is sewer on each side of the street, which, as a developer, it's double cost. Sorry. I thought that was mine. But there, a box will be put there for electric, for the one on the right, the one on the left. On there. I believe last time I was in here, on there, I was gonna name it Blackhawks. I just say wind song. My wife does not like that, so that's not the plat. You will have to give me addresses, oh, excuse me, give it to me or give it to my engineer on there, so.
Just as we look at this concept, and we look at the utilities, we start off with water first. See, water is on the outside of the loop. It is proposed to be a loop feed through there. Sizing's unknown yet, but just proposed to be a loop feed. That's the blue. The red is the sanitary sewer, just starting in on the left side of the picture, and then so it actually flows to the south, where it would go into that lift station, pumps across the road and into that existing force main.
Okay. The water has to be looped. And in any development, it's got to be. So in case there is a drop off, if something happens to one side, they can shut off one side and get water from the other. It's got to be looped.
So Scott, are you saying that all of the sewer will run to the lift station?
Yes.
All
yeah,
of it?
all of it.
And that's how come there is basements on there. It's got to be.
Okay.
Is that a forced main that goes by there?
Yep.
And the existing sewer passed on the front in the, it's actually on the lake side shoulder of that road. It's a two-inch force main, I think, through there. And that runs for something over a mile until it gets over to Clausen Bait House.
And
That's water.
Sanitary sewer.
now, it'll be the same pumps that you guys got. Because you guys got extra pumps in case one goes down.
We use Flight pumps, so that's just the brand name is Flight.
Alright. And in case there is a problem, in case of electricity, I know last time, and when the city was without power, they have a tractor with a generator on it, and they're driving there and pumping them on there, so.
Let's, I wanna also take a look then at the drainage and storm sewer situation. Just look at the end of, both ends of the street, you see that there's curb intakes there to drain the street, and then those would drain into this ditch. But the ditch is proposed to be largely filled so that it would be mowable.
What I want that ditch filled. Has anybody ever walked down there? It's down there, so what we did, we know exactly the high point on there. That high point, that water will run that way, that water will run that way. That's gonna be the high point. And then there will be actually intakes, beehives coming up, so a person can mow it.
And so that's the green line that's running in the ditch on the lake side of all of these homes. They
Yeah.
propose to have a drainage line running basically the entire length of that property.
Okay, Scott, when I left here this afternoon, I drove by there. Property next door, to the south. They got that where they drive in,
Okay.
there ain't no tile whatsoever.
Okay.
So that water's gonna come down and run into the field and get its own way over to the ditch.
To the outlet there, yeah?
You're talking about the trailer court?
No, it is from my property to the outlet.
Oh, okay.
So they're gonna have to put a tile upfield.
Somebody's gonna have to put a tile through that.
That'd probably be the county's, right?
No,
Well, it'll end up being the city at the,
Oh, okay. Let the county do it before it gets in.
right, I don't think they'll like you
private access drive, but
I know.
I'm sure we'd end
Yeah.
up having to.
on there. But there should be a tile through there, so that water goes down instead of running in the field.
They don't wanna ruin his farm ground just because of, you know, I mean, I'm sure they will put a tile in there. They have to.
Or basically, when they're putting my tile in, whatever is there, dig it up, put a tile underneath it. And what I'm planning on is plastic tile. It's for drainage, and don't tell me what size, I do not know. That's the engineer. But that piece of property, it drains to the lake, to the wetland, to the farm field. And I know at one time they were talking about a retention pond. That's why there's everything stays the same. And V&K is your guys' engineer.
Yep.
Bob Feastrup, have any of you ever met him?
Yeah, he's been there many times.
He's been here a lot.
Okay. Very smart man. I think he has about 5 or 6 degrees.
Yeah. Can we take a look here real quick at page 9 in the council packet? This is that, I'm gonna go through that subdivision code with them, Bob, you don't have a
You
copy.
know what?
but-
Where's the cop right there? Or where can I get another cup of coffee?
Right here.
That's one way to keep my mouth shut.
Well, not really, because we're gonna be asking you some more questions.
Well, that's fine.
Just on page 9 at the bottom of the page where you see the improvements required section, this is in our subdivision code, these are the types of improvements that are required. So we look at number 2 where it's talking about roadway width, and this would meet the definition of what is a minor roadway, so the minimum width is 29 feet back to curb, the back of curb, which is what Bob is proposing. To have a concrete street, at least 6 inches in depth. He was talking about using reinforcement. Item 4 on the next page talks about curb and gutter. Bob will propose to put a, call it a California curb, we call it drop curb around here, the same type of drop curb that we put on Sunset Drive. For basically the entire run, other than right next to that wetland.
Wetland. It'll be a curb, actually a regular curb.
Number 5 is talking about stormwater and whether there's any dedicated overland drainage swales, which there would not be. Number 6 is sidewalks. This does say that we require sidewalks on one side. Bobby will not propose that. Okay. And so as I've told Bob several times, we need to get a development agreement in place about what would, that details exactly what's gonna be done out there. And make sure that the city council can be on board with that, because in this case, it says we require a sidewalk on one side and it's not gonna propose to be installed. 7 is water line. You see that within our subdivision code, it does say that water mains are installed at the city's expense. Sewers, and that is developer's expense on sewers. Just know that for both water and sewer, the projects do need to be engineered, because you gotta get an extension permit from the DNR, and that's the way those are, the extension permits are granted is through the engineer, so that'll be properly engineered. Electricity, number 9, you see that the city takes care of the electric installation up to the meter loop on the house, so basically we take care of everything on that. But on number 10, talking about street lighting, that says that the city would install street lighting there to our minimum standard, with our minimum standard being a wood pole with 1 arm and 1 lamp. Want to talk a little bit about your ideas on that, Bob?
Okay. With the neighbor next door, they're worried about the lights. You start looking at that, like the lights, normal, they're way up in the air. What I like to do, and I don't care if it's a wood pole, go straight up maybe 12 or 14 feet, and then have on top of it with a cap on it that brings the light down closer. Because you're gonna have to do it on the street, and in front of right at the intersection, you gotta have one taller one on coming in and coming out. But I'm talking around the horseshoe.
So you think your engineer will give a proposal on street lighting, or are you looking?
That's what I'll talk to my engineer about.
Okay.
On there, because I know the last time she had a problem getting all these lights. It'll give too much light.
The rest of the stuff on page 11 is just the rest of our subdivision code on that, about when things are installed and whatnot.
Okay.
Bob proposes to move pretty quick on
Yeah. Okay, Scott, on there. That water has to be looped. I
Yep.
wanna make
Yeah.
sure that is well known.
I agree, I don't know that we would install a dead-end sewer, or dead-end water line anymore.
No. Any other questions? Now, this is just a preliminary. Normally, they don't do this. I grab the plans from the architect and say, hey, I'm keeping them informed on there, because I know there's gonna be questions.
You could consider us informed, Bob.
I just
We
wanna
really
make sure.
appreciate that.
No, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
I really appreciate it.
It looks good so far, Bob.
Hey, personally, I'd like to see Classic buy all those 6 lots.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm thinking, I may talk to you, Scott, about the TIF. That might be a stepping stone for them. Don't know. Am I planning on building them? The answer is no. I'd like to see them put up 6 of them.
So would we. Okay, we'll move on. Scott, you wanna walk us through the lagoon bid schedule?
Yeah, several things on that. Let's start by taking a look at page 12 in the packet. Just looking at that, the schedule of dates, those are the schedule that we would propose to keep, okay? So that the next city council meeting, there would actually be a council resolution to order the construction and then set the bid letting date. With the bid letting date, you know, giving them about a month to prepare their bids, having bid letting on April 10th, which is like a Tuesday or Wednesday, a few days to evaluate that, and then it comes to the city council on April 16th, have a public hearing at that time, and then consider award of the contract. They'd have they got 10 days initially to accept and get things rolling. And then the council could consider approval of the contract and bond then by May 7th. So we do intend to keep that time schedule, but I want to walk through some of the things on the notice to bidders with you, and that starts on page 14. And I'm just going to hit some highlights here, but this, this is telling you when the bid letting time is again, and we would actually let bids at 11 a.m. on April 11th. For the project that's described in the middle, that one paragraph in the middle is the complete description of our $4.5 million project. The bottom paragraph talks a little bit about the bid security. So all of the bidders got to submit their bids on a form that's provided in the bid packet. And as of now, it was one lump sum bid. They do need to give bid security. It's 5% bid security. That's either through a cashier's check or a bid bond, most likely a bid bond. The idea being if they're low bidder and they're not able to follow through and enter into the contract to perform the work, okay, the city would keep that amount of that bid bond. Okay, so that's just the concept of what the bid bond is there for. Middle of the page, you'll see that we'll deal with lots of government regulations and lots of federal requirements that we got to do, and it refers to the president's executive order, and then taking affirmative steps to involve disadvantaged business enterprise. Okay, now the bidder is the one who's responsible for that, and that'll all be part of their bid when they submit the bid about how they will involve disadvantaged business enterprises, what used to be women and minorities in business. Second paragraph from the bottom just talks a little bit about contractors' suspension or debarment certification. So they will be when they submit their bid, they're certifying that they are not suspended or debarred. Bottom paragraph talks about utilizing prevailing wage. Well, what that amounts to is this is a Davis-Bacon wage rate job. So we'll be following Davis-Bacon wage rates for it. Third paragraph down, the standard language about the city reserving the right to reject any and all bids, to waive informalities and technicalities. So those are some language that does allow us a little latitude in how bids are considered. And next paragraph down stating that the city can defer acceptance for up to 60 days. Then we would go ahead and award a proposed contract, but the contract's not final until it's approved by the DNR. So the DNR gets their say on the contract here also. Third paragraph up from the bottom where it's talking about the successful bidder will be required to furnish bonds. So they do require, they furnish 3 kinds of bonds when they enter into their contract. So they will have this first one, the faithful performance of the contract. That's the performance bond saying that they're going to do what they said they were going to do, and that's 100% of what their bid price is. Prompt payment to all persons, that's payment bond saying that they would pay all of their subcontractors. And third one is maintenance bond. So they got to carry a maintenance bond on this for 2 years. So they have a 2-year time period after we accept the project for when they're responsible yet for workmanship. Okay, second paragraph talks about the work proceeding this, and it shall be in that the wastewater treatment facility shall be in operation and treating wastewater by October 15th of 2019. It's a little later than what I had expected to hear. Our compliance date with the DNR currently is May of 19. So we'll be working with the DNR about extending that time a little bit, but I talked with Bob Easter about this, about a October 15th time, and he said, that's not etched in stone, and it may need to be moved up a few months yet, and he was talking August. But anyway, it's still looking at a lengthy construction period for allowing them to finish. Liquidated damages are stipulated there. They're looking at liquidated damages of $500 per day. Just at the on page 17, second paragraph down, it's just talking about how we come up with money to pay for the project. And there are several ways that we can do that, with the main one there being item number 4, cash proceeds of the state revolving loan fund, and that's funding virtually all of the project. Next paragraph down talks about how the contractor submits requests for payment. So this will say that they can submit requests for payment once a month. 10 days before it comes to the city council, it goes to our engineer who reviews their request for payment and determine whether it's justified. Assuming it is, it comes to the city council for payment. You'd authorize the payment of it. We still have 30 days to pay that pay estimate then. Because what we would do then is you take that pay estimate, submit it into the SRF fund, they get us the money, and then we can finally turn around and pay the contract. So there's always 5% retainage. So we do retain 5% out of everything paid. Now also, on the third paragraph from the bottom where it's talking about payment also including an allowance for the cost of major materials and equipment. So when the contractor purchases some major equipment, he is entitled to be paid for the equipment cost. Even though it's not installed and running yet, he will still be paid for the purchase of the equipment. Second paragraph from the bottom is stating that even though prior to substantial completion, it can be up and running and the city can be utilizing it, we had not waived our acceptance of the project then, though. We can utilize it and be in there doing city work, even while technically the owner or the contractor is still responsible for the project. Top of page 18 is where the project is done and in the completion of the work, and the engineer then issues that certificate of completion. And then at that time the contractor is no longer responsible for the project in whole. There's probably a punch list for them to do afterwards, but in general the city has accepted the project. big long paragraph about how the contractor indemnifies the city. And bottom two paragraphs talk about how the contractor gets plans, and plans come from Veenstra and Kim, and they do get plans from them at no charge. So, which is, anyway, a little, maybe even a little unusual. A lot of people charge for plans. As of now, here's the plans and the spec book to go along with it. I asked this, I guess, is a real serious question. How in-depth would you like to delve into the plans and see what's going on? I guess it's a real serious question, because
Call having an engineer degree, isn't it?
I mean, I'm gonna guess most of it will go right over the top of our heads because,
you know, I think that you really need to have a good grasp of the concept. And, you know, I guess I'd ask that as a question. Do you feel like you have a real good grasp of the concept and how things work?
But if we wanted to look at that someday, you always have that.
That's your view, though.
I mean, you could sit here and whatever, if you wanted to look something up or something, you could do it that way too. Instead of making copies for
Well, going up and seeing an operation makes a difference too.
you. Yeah.
That gives
That was
you,
helpful.
Yeah.
that gives you a rough idea of how it's supposed to work and what the flow is like and stuff like that, where the equipment is. And I know that was a lot of help for me when I went up there and just get your arms around it a little bit to see how it all works out. So, I mean, that's always another trick that could be made too sometime if there is any questions.
That would be interesting.
I want to go back to this state revolving loan fund.
Okay.
I don't know how this affects anything, but you know, the interest rates are going up. Do we sign a contract right away with the project that we know that we're locked in at a certain interest rate, or is that done at the end of the process? Where is this, how's that work?
We're going to enter into a loan agreement with them early on in the process.
And then we'll be locked in with our interest rate at that point in
Yeah.
time?
Because we will have already started to draw money.
Okay.
Right then. So I believe that's correct, Mikey, and I'd want to confirm that, I guess. But we enter into the loan agreement at the beginning of the project.
Okay.
Which that would occur shortly after letting bids. Because you gotta have some idea of actually how much money you'd be borrowing.
Right.
So,
Okay.
because what the SRF program wants you to do is, so you're gonna let the bids in, you know what the project costs are, you'll enter into a loan agreement for that amount of money, and over the course of the project, they would like for you to amend that amount no more than once. And we know that we'll be amending that at some point because we'll be doing the sponsored project work at the end of the project, which is the fish gate and that type of stuff. So we know we'll be having those additional costs that'll go on to it also. But there's a little latitude in that as far as having an amendment to the loan agreement, but they would like for you to do it once, only once.
Well, my concern was that with the interest rate, you know, they're talking about going up, so once we're locked in, we're locked in.
We are locked in.
Okay, so
You know, we're locked in, the debt issuance would be for 20 years. They have a reevaluation of the interest rate, an automatic reevaluation at the 10-year mark, okay? Now, if the interest rate does not go up, we're locked in for 20 years, but if it happens to go down, we do see the benefit of a reduction. Okay, which we did see on both the sewer plant and the water plant debt issuance. We did see the interest rate reduction there.
Okay.
Okay, Bob Veenstra is your engineer. Now, I'm glad to hear that the city can say, no, we do not want this guy. Talk to Bob Veenstra up in Elkhart, Iowa. It was a mess. he didn't make any money on the deal, and they had to do all kinds of work with the lift station. They had to take low bid, and Elkhart did. Talk to Bob, who it is,
Sure.
on there, and you don't wanna read all that stuff. There's a whole bunch of mumble jumble that nobody understands other than an engineer. So, that's the only thing that I wanna say is, take Bob's word for it. I have a lot of respect for that man.
We're paying him a lot of money for his opinion.
I know, well, hey, all engineers are expensive.
Yes, they are.
On there. And I always razz him. He drives a beat-up old Chevrolet that he's had for 30 years, I think. It's got 300-some thousand miles on it, he keeps driving it, so.
Does anybody have any more questions?
No, we have an update though. Good. You go through a little bit on land purchase, Dave, and where we're at on some of that stuff?
We received the abstract, the title to, what they've surveyed off as Lot C for the lagoon site. We got that, Friday. I did the title opinion. There's clear title. There's a couple things we gotta clean up. I drafted up a deed, and we're going to try to get this, land purchase, closed in the first part of March, whether it be March 1, March 5, March 6, kind of depends on how everything else falls into place on that. The purchase price ended up being, the agreement was 15,000 an acre. The survey came out to 13.51 acres, which includes 0.7 of right-of-way easement, which you have to purchase. And so the gross contract price, as it sits now, prior to some reductions to the seller for abstract bills, taxes, that type of thing, is $202,650. So the original contract talked about 14 acres. It turned out to be 13.roughly 5 acres, and so there was a little bit of cost savings there. So we're good to go on closing on the real estate whenever we're permitted to do it. So whenever we pick a date, and then the council will have to council's already approved the agreement and the purchase, but once the deed is signed, then the council will have to put it up on their agenda to accept the property or accept the conveyance. So that part will be done.
Which we anticipate that'll be on the city council meeting for March 5th. We would have formal council action then to accept the conveyance of the property, in the hopes that the transaction's done by that time.
Right, I picked March 1st because that's the common farm closing date, and people are used to that date. There's no particular reason for that. It's just, I needed some date to calculate what the taxes were going to be and that type of thing.
And just on the easement side of things, we're dealing with 3 property owners on easements. And we have 2 signed easements with two of the property owners are signed. Then I'm meeting with the other property owner tomorrow. In the attempt to get that all done with any luck. And we'd like to present that at the March 5th council meeting and be done with all property issues.
Yeah.
Probably close close on the easements on the same day we close on the lagoon side too.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan. Anybody have any more questions? We have a city administrator report.
Nothing.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make it.
Second. Being adjourned.
All right.
All right, Tammy. Yeah, well, I guess I could have thought about that beforehand. I just could have I turned the computer. That's what I did. I just